Amber Paxton with the Financial Empowerment Center, and you're watching Money Power. Money Power will help you learn ways to get money, save money, and manage money. The show is part of the City of Lansing's Financial Empowerment Center, a partnership between the city and Capital Area Community Services. The Financial Empowerment Center offers free one-on-one financial counseling to Lansing residents. Call 211 today to schedule your free appointment. It's safe, confidential, and can help you pay off debt, improve your credit score, access safe and affordable bank products, and save for the future. The Lansing Financial Empowerment Center is made possible by a grant from the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, a program of Bloomberg Philanthropy's Mayor's Project.
Hi, I'm Anna Ari, programmer here at Let's Community Center, and this is our first annual holiday craft show. We have had a pretty good turnout and hope that next year we get even more. This is a great opportunity for people to come out and sell any crafts that they make.
My name is Pamela Miller, and I do crafts and baskets and gifts and such. One of the things I do is I consider the customers that will come and see me. I'll consider that they are mothers who have very limited income, and when you come to a craft sale, majority of the time you're looking for a really good deal. You don't want to say that, but that's what you're looking for. And when you find that, it's like it makes the shopping experience a lot more fun than if you were to go somewhere, window shop, and see things that you can't afford. I want to make this fun. I want to make it fun for not just me or the parents, but for kids. If you have a friend or a birthday for a sister or a brother or a parent, you want to come by this table and you want to find something that's very inexpensive, from 10 cents to 50 cents to $5, whatever you choose. But I put the price tags on it to make it easier. I want to think about the fact that we are all in an economy that's not doing its best, but make the best out of what we can. I participate in craft fairs because I like to do crafts. I like to create things. I like for my things to be seen. I like to keep things inexpensive because it's about the creativity. It's about the creating that I do. It's not really about the money that I get out of it. Sometimes I'll shortchange myself and still feel good. Sometimes I won't. So I usually find out about craft sales through the newspapers. When I go to other craft sales, I'll hear other vendors talking about what's coming up next and how to get into it and who to call and stuff like that. So after a couple of years, you get to a point where you kind of have a list where you can constantly check and find out, who's doing what this year and how much of the tables and, what it's going to take to get in to the craft sales. So they make it pretty easy to get in. The benefits that I get from doing the craft sales, depending on the year or the time of the year, like Christmas, I have the opportunity to recycle my kids' toys. The toys that they're no longer playing with, the toys that's just sitting in the bottom of the toy box doing nothing. I have the opportunity to bless another family by being able to come out here and make the toys affordable for the parents to give to the kids. I make sure they have the batteries and things like that so the things will still work, so you can just take it, wrap it up, put it right up under the tree, making it as easy as possible for the parents. And Valentine's Day, I do awesome. I love Valentine's Day. I love Sweetest Day. I would recommend anybody and everybody who has a creative mind to get into the craft shows, because you meet a lot of nice people. You get to network on what's coming up next, what's new, and you get different ideas from other people on certain stuff. See, I took something simple and changed it. Everybody has some stuff in the house that you're not using, that you could change up, or that you could give, what do they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So I take things that I'm no longer using and I turn it into something new that somebody can use.
My name is Nyla Husby, and the name of the craft that we sell is the Hooking Granny, and it is all kinds of doilies, from large ones to small ones, tablecloths, bedspreads. It's fun seeing the joy that the crafts give to the people that take them, especially small children. They enjoy seeing the crafts and the excitement that they have when they can receive the gift that they want. I consider all of the factors into selling the crafts at the different craft shows that I choose, be it from a low-income family area. I want to make sure that I have my smaller, lower-priced items, to a higher-end sale where I might have my big, long tablecloths there, bigger blankets, bedspreads. I like to take my money, since it's mostly my mother's product that we're selling, and I put it aside for her funeral decorations on the cemetery plot. She passed away a few years ago, so we decorate her cemetery plot year-round with the funds that we make from the product that she made. So it's giving the money back to her. A lot of people probably sell products to make their ends meet and to help their expenses that they have this time of year also. You can get on midmichigan.com and look up festivals and fairs, and a lot of them will host different areas for crafters. And then, like, I looked at the activity guide for the city of Lansing and came up with the couple that I was in for the city of Lansing this year also. Attending craft shows is a lot of fun. You get to know new people, different crafters, see their products. We share products back and forth together. We share sites. Like, I'm going to be going to this place, and so we'll meet up there in the next year and be in the same site again. It's a lot of fun. The crafting community is to be creative and to have that same goal in mind, to make sure everyone has a good time and a good season.
We hope to do this once a year. We also do rummage sales at Geyer Community Center twice a year. The next one will be March 8th. The cost for a table is only $15, so it's not real expensive. And this is a great opportunity for your family to be able to show their talents, any hobbies you have, and make some money.
It's important to have a plan for paying down your debt, because if you were going to go on a road trip and you had never been to that destination before, you'd want a map to follow to give you step-by-step directions on how to get to where you're going. And it's really the same thing for a debt paydown plan. You want to have an idea of where you're going, so you know when you're being successful and you know when you need to readjust your goals. And it gives you that sort of that also kind of checkpoint where you can say, yes, I'm being successful at this point and it's working. And that'll keep you motivated to continue. So today we're going to talk about 3 methods: the debt snowball method, the debt avalanche method, and the net worth method of paying off your debts and eventually becoming debt-free. Before you start to plan on how you're going to pay down your debt, it's good to do a couple of things first. One of those is to get an emergency fund established, and we generally recommend that you put away about $1,000 in an emergency fund. One of the reasons for that is if you don't have that emergency fund and the minute your paychecks come in, you're sending out everything you possibly can to your debt, then what happens if, say, the furnace breaks down or you need a car repair or something else unexpected happens? Because then with no fallback plan, all that money has already been sent out. So you want to have that emergency fund set aside before you begin to put big chunks toward your debts. Another thing that you want to do is to have a budget, and that's something we recommend for everyone across the board in any kind of personal finance situation where you're trying to manage your own money, is that you start with a budget. And then once you have that budget put together, you need to know that you're sort of right side up. In other words, you have more income coming in than expenses going out. And whatever that buffer is, you can start putting that in the emergency fund, and then once you have that established, you can use that buffer to go ahead and pay down your debts. So if you're not yet in a position where your income is greater than your expenses, it's not time to start an aggressive pay down plan. It's at that point you're trying to get yourself to a point where you're lowering expenses and increasing income till you have that buffer. So once you've got the budget, you know that you have a buffer that you can use for debt pay down, and you've got your emergency fund established, then you're ready to pay down debt. as you're establishing where you are with that budget and that emergency fund, there's lots of tools that you can use. One that we've talked about before in another episode of Money Power was to use a spending log. And that's basically where you just keep track of every penny you spend for 30 days. And that can help you establish a budget that's realistic, because when we do our first draft of a budget and we haven't ever done it before, most of us find that we forget about certain things. For me, that thing is gifts. I always have to remember to budget gifts because you'll think that you've got your budget absolutely perfect, and then one of your children will come home and say they're invited to a birthday party, and now you have an unexpected expense. So the spending journal can be a really effective method of creating that budget that is realistic and allows for you to figure out how to do your emergency fund and then your pay down plan. The first method of debt pay down that we talk about is the debt snowball method. And many of you may have heard of this because it's been made very popular by Dave Ramsey. So the debt snowball method is where you list your debts in order from smallest balance to largest balance. And you're going to start with your smallest balance. And so if you have multiple payments going out for debt, then you would attack the smallest balance first. So say you had $100 of buffer in your budget that you can use and allocate to debt pay down. You would you'd pay minimum payments on all of your debts except for that one with the lowest balance, and you'd put that $100 on that every month until that debt was eliminated. And then you'd go on to the next one and put all that you were putting on the first debt plus anything else you have extra onto the second debt, and you would do it in that fashion. And so that's the debt snowball method, is attacking the smallest balance through the largest balance until you're debt free. The debt avalanche method is one where you, again, put your debts in order, but this time by highest interest down to lowest interest. So you're going to attack your highest interest debt first. So you would do exactly the same thing. If you had $100 buffer in your budget that you can use for debt pay down, then you would use that to apply to your highest interest debt. And then once that one is paid off, you would use that money you were using and any additional extra towards the next debt until you're debt free. The net worth method is a little more complicated, but I've noticed that the people who like the net worth method are those who are maybe a little bit more financially savvy, and they have a little bit more interest in how their assets play out in their net worth. So what I mean by that is your net worth is the value of everything you own. So for instance, if you own a car and that car has a balance on it, you still owe on that car, then the net worth of that car is its value minus whatever you owe. So you can have a positive net worth and you can have a negative net worth. You might, the car might be worth more than you owe on it, or it might be worth less than you owe on it. And so what you do with the net worth method is you list all your assets and all of your debts. So those assets can include many, many things. Anything that you could turn into cash fairly easily, and that would be an asset. And so you put one column in your spreadsheet would be the value, and the second column would be what's owed. So in some cases, there will be a value but nothing owed. You own it outright, it's of value, and so that asset is completely in the positive. And so you tally all of those things up and you look at the things that are the closest to being in the positive, that are not yet positive, but they're the closest to being in the positive. So for example, if your car is worth $6,000 and you owe $6,500 on it, then you would focus on that first, and you'd get that up to where it's equal. And then you'd go back to paying the minimum balance on that, and you'd choose another thing that's almost an asset. I have found in my experience when giving presentations about this method that it's generally the gentlemen in the room who like this method the most. The net worth method can be a very achievement-oriented method. In other words, you feel sort of like you're achieving things by getting these things that were liabilities to become assets. So you've heard about the debt snowball method, the debt avalanche method, and the net worth method of paying down your debt. And as long as you choose a plan, any of those plans is perfectly acceptable. It's really a matter of personal choice. When it comes right down to dollars and cents, the one that will save you the most money is the avalanche method, because it will attack the highest interest first, meaning it will save you in interest payments over the course of time. One of the reasons that Dave Ramsey often touts the debt snowball method is because it's the most motivational. In other words, you will make progress the fastest. So when you're choosing that smallest debt and you get that paid off, it gives you that sort of moment of celebration. And some people really need that. In fact, most people really need that. So if you try the avalanche method and you find that you're becoming frustrated or impatient with results, you may want to switch over to the snowball method for a while and just get your motivation back up. But any of those, again, is a really acceptable method of paying down debt. And of course, in the city of Lansing, we have the Financial Empowerment Center, where at 5 different locations in the city, you can come and get free one-on-one financial counseling. And our counselors can actually help you with all of the pieces we've talked about in this segment. They can help you with a spending log, they can help you create a budget, they can help you prioritize your debts, and help you stay on a plan to pay them off.
I'm Karen Kassler, and I am the Compliance Manager at Case Credit Union. I'm also a certified credit union financial counselor, and part of my job is to assist people of low income to find opportunities and programs that are out there for them. Here at Case, we offer Federal Home Loan Bank grants for home ownership and for repair to a house. And we are a Bank On participant. We're the only credit union that participates in Bank On in Lansing, and have been in that program for probably close to 3 years now. It's really important before you ever step on a lot or you ever decide to buy a car to decide how much can you actually afford. It's easy to go find the car of your dreams, but it might be well without, beyond your reach. So it's important that you take a step back and take stock of what you can afford. The worst thing you can do is go into buying a car and finding out that the payments are too stiff for you to be able to afford, or that over a year or so you have a life event that changes what you can afford, and you unfortunately lose the car because you can't afford it any longer. So it's important to step back and assess what you actually can afford before you go shopping. So some of the steps that I would recommend is, first off, to consider how much can you actually put as a down payment. The more that you can put on that down payment, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. It's recommended, if at all possible, that you can put 20% down on a car purchase. Of course, not all of us can do that, but the most that you can pull together is very important. That helps you to determine that's coming into the car buying dollars. It's an important part of that. Also, you can consider rebates. If the car you're purchasing has rebates on it, that can also go toward down payment as well. You can also use your trade-in. If you have a car that is hopefully paid off, you can probably trade that car in. And you can look up online at various websites such as kellybluebook.com, that's kbb.com. You can look up and see what the value of that car is. Of course, the dealer may have a different perspective as well, but all of those things bring down payment money to the table. So that's the beginning of how you determine how much that you're going to be able to purchase the car. So what you're doing is amassing a pot of money of, this is how much money I can afford to spend on a car. And that's the first step. The next most important thing you're going to need to do is to calculate how much of a payment can I afford. So you kind of back into this in a way of taking your gross monthly income, and you're going to want to consider the fact that you can't spend all of your gross monthly income on a car payment. You need to consider the fact that a reasonable amount of money to be able to have to pay your bills and your car payment, including that car payment, is about 36% of your gross monthly income. So you'd need to sit down and calculate how much is my gross monthly income and multiply that by 0.36. That's going to give you a dollar figure that will tell you this is how much I can afford to pay all my bills. Then you need to sit down with the bills that you have and consider everything that you pay every month, your credit card payments, your rent, your utility payments, any payment that you have regularly every month. You want to sit down and consider how much you are actually paying out every month. Once you have tallied that up and made a total amount, you can subtract that from that 36% that you've already calculated. Whatever is left out of that is what you probably can afford in a car payment. So it might be $200, it might be $125. So you want to make sure that you can afford the payment for the car. You don't want to buy a car that is outside your means, because in the end it probably will end badly. If you went 60 months on a car, it's going to be a lot lower payment, but it depends on the year of the car too. You don't want to finance something too long. If the car is an older car, you don't want to finance it out 5 years if it's not going to last 5 years. Of course, if it's a newer car, that's perfectly reasonable. So depending on the term that you're willing to go, or the term that fits your payment that you've calculated your payment is, that's going to help you determine how much of a car you can purchase. You'll need to do some research as to what are current rates out there. You'll want to call different financial institutions. You want to call a bank and a credit union and maybe a car finance company just to see what kind of rates they have. Of course, the rates a lot of times are a piece of what your credit score is. Many financial institutions use your credit score as a benchmark for what kind of rate you're going to pay. So it is important that you have information about that as well. You can pull your credit score from several different online sources, one of them being creditkarma.com. It's not an exact score, it's a composite score, but it'll give you a range of where you think you might be as far as a rate. Of course, the higher your score, the better rate you're going to get. The lower the score, the higher rate you're going to get. So that comes into play in determining your payment amount. You have to step back and say, well, what is realistically a rate that I can achieve? I have an example for $10,000. If rates are running from 2.5 up to 17.5, sometimes more. For a payment on a $10,000 loan for 5 years, you would be paying about $175 for that lowest rate. However, if you had the highest rate because your creditworthiness was not as good, your payment might be $252. So you have a wide range there as far as what those rates, how they affect the payment that you're making. So you've already done all this homework on how much you can put down on it. You've done your homework on how much you can afford. You don't forget, you've got to have taxes paid for, you've got to have registration paid for, you're going to have an insurance bill. Don't forget to consider those in your payment amount as well, or at least in your calculation of how much you can afford. So you're backing into the amount of car that you can afford by determining all these things ahead of time. And there are some wonderful car purchase calculators online. Bankrate.com has a wonderful calculator that you can put all these numbers in, and at the end it will tell you this is how much of a car that you can afford. And that's when you start to go shopping. That's when you know how much you can afford. It's wonderful to go to the lot to dream, and we all like to do that, but it isn't always realistic. You want to make sure that you aren't buying more than you can afford and you're not putting yourself in financial jeopardy. We're all human. Sometimes we have life events that change, whether we can make a payment or not. And it's harder for low-income people to be able to do that because they have less discretionary income. It's important that as you go through your financial life that you remember to save. It's important to have an emergency fund just to back you up, so that possibly if that ever did happen, you'd have something to dip into. However, every now and then we have a situation where you aren't able to make the payment on time. It's extremely important that you contact the financial institution that is holding your loan to talk with them about what are the possibilities. The worst thing you can do is not call, because then they're left with wondering what's going on, what's happening, why aren't you contacting me? Of course, they probably are trying to contact you at the same time. Generally, most financial institutions will work with you to accommodate what can be done. It's possible sometimes to skip a payment. It's possible sometimes to make an arrangement that you pay a portion of the payment. Sometimes some financial institutions will add that payment to the end of the loan and say, okay, for this month we'll forgive it as far as the payment. You still would need to make that payment then at the end of the loan. So there are options out there. If you don't talk to your lender, they have no idea what's going on, and you have to be proactive and let them know. The sooner you know you can't make the payment, it's better. It's going to end up better for both the financial institution and for you. In order for you to determine how much you're going to pay for this car, and it isn't just the cost of the car, it's also the interest that you're going to be paying over the term of the loan. You want to get the best deal possible. So knowing what your credit report looks like, knowing what range your credit score is in, is very helpful and very beneficial when you do go out shopping. Case does have a relationship with many dealers in the Lansing area. And if you live, work, or worship in the area, you are eligible to become a member. And you can go to the dealers that are in the Lansing area in order to look for your car, and they can do our financing right through their dealership. We do that as a convenience for our members, and it saves them time and it saves them hassle, and we offer that to all of our members. But you don't have to become a member first. You can become a member when that deal is approved, and you come to sign for your documents.
I needed help opening up a bank account, and the Financial Empowerment Group had just started over at Advent House, and they asked if I wanted to receive help from them. Okay. So I was like, yeah, not a problem. Okay. I can use all the help I can get. I had been homeless for quite a while. Okay. And I didn't know any of the facilities around here that help people out. And my friend Allie from Advent House suggested the empowerment group, and she introduced me to Rebecca. So that's how I got started with them. They helped me learn how to set up my goals so that I can take it one step at a time. They helped me break it down so that I wasn't so worried about what I was doing with my money and what I wasn't, because I have a bad habit of overspending sometimes. So they helped me learn how to not do that. My personal goals were to build up a bank account, saving my money, only using what I needed to pay bills and other things. I feel a lot stronger in what I do now every day. I don't feel so worried about how I'm going to make it from day to day. Advent House and the Empowerment Group are there just to help us. They're there for us. And they do a lot to make sure that, we get what we need to be able to make it through life. Lansing has a lot of good programs, and they're programs that are there to help the homeless and the financially destitute. And they need to be willing to go out and look for it and ask for help, because there are people out there that will help them. They just don't need to be afraid to ask for help.
Thanks for watching Money Power. I hope you learned something that gives you the power. You can do it. We can help.